This is CBS Sports HQ. We are four wide. Chris Hassel, Jacqueline DeAugustino, Kyle Long, and Pete Prisco, who brought his big season predictions for us today, Jacqueline.
Yeah.
He did.
Early.
And you know what, Pete? I heard you talking to Kyle specifically earlier on this program, as Chris would say, that you don't like to go chalk with your predictions, right?
I don't like to go chalk.
We'll see about that.
Needless to say, this is not chalk.
It is not chalk. We're going to get into the predictions. Also, Pete, you said you're getting a new headshot soon.
Next week.
Okay.
You don't need a new headshot. You need a new body shot,
Yeah, well, I'm
because
getting it
you're
all.
about 50 pounds lighter
I'm getting it
now
all.
than you were here
I'm
in this
getting
picture.
it all. I probably do need a new head, though.
Okay, well, for now, we're going to go with Pete's current playoff predictions. We're going to get the AFC. He's going to walk us through it, the NFC, teams that could be on the fringe, and there's some surprising ones in there. I'm thinking of one in particular, and I feel like there's going to be a fan base that's not too happy about being called a fringe team, Pete, but we'll get to it. And also the Super Bowl winner, as the Chiefs are trying to go back to back to back. Is Pete going to go chalk there? Who knows? But let's start with the AFC. And Pete, we're talking about the AFC here. These are your playoff predictions. You do have the Jags in the wild card spot, but kind of walk us through how you got here. We're looking at the Bengals going from worst to first, and they're not first, but better than worst with a healthy Joe Burrow.
Yeah, when you look at this, the way it's structured right now, I think Buffalo's going to win the East. I think there's people who are just discounting that team. I saw one poll today where somebody said that Josh Allen's the most overrated player in the league. That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen heard in the history.
Who voted in this poll?
It was players, I think.
Oh.
Couple blind guys.
Yeah, they have no earthly idea what to do. But I think Buffalo wins the AFC East, but Chiefs will get the #1 seed because their division's not very good. And they're good, don't get me wrong, but their division's not very good. I think Buffalo's going to have a hard time winning the division with the Jets in it and Miami, but I think ultimately they win it to become the 2 seed. I think when you look at the South, I think they're going to cannibalize each other, so they're not going to have great records, but I think the Texans win it. I think Jacksonville gets a wild card team. And then, you know, you talk about the Jets. Where are the Jets? Well, Aaron Rodgers is back, so I think they'll be a playoff team. I think they'll push Buffalo, but I don't think they win the division.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as Buffalo goes, we've seen a lot of key players leave that locker room, and obviously with Matt Milano going down, a lot of questions on the defensive side of the ball. But there are players ready to step up in Buffalo. At the receiver position, I really like Shakir. He's going to try to help fill that void for Josh Allen. And as Josh Allen goes, if he's in the football game, you've got a shot. I know that he's got the talent to do that, so I'm not angry with the Buffalo pick at all. I like Cincinnati getting back in there, getting back to form. Joe Burrow is as good as anybody when he's healthy, and obviously he's looking for redemption. Jamar Chase situation going to get figured out, hopefully, and then get him that rock a ton of times a week.
My bracket. Here's how it plays out. Once we get to the postseason, this is how it's going to play out. You're going to be surprised. I have the Bills beating the Jaguars in the first round. I have the Jets beating the Bengals.
Really? The Jets
road.
over your boy Joe Burrow?
Yes. And then I have the Ravens beating the Texans also on the road. So then I have the Ravens playing the Bills, with the Bills winning that. I have the Jets going on the road and upsetting the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, my goodness.
And then I have the Buffalo Bills beating the New York Jets in the championship game.
So, Pete, in your opinion, of course, the championship window for Buffalo is not closed.
Not as long as that guy's throwing passes. As long as Josh Allen's throwing passes, the window is not closed.
But why would this be, of all the years Buffalo could break through to the Super Bowl, why do you think this is the year?
Well, for one, Stephon Diggs is gone. You're going to say, well,
that's addition by subtraction to you?
That is addition by subtraction. He didn't do anything in the last 10 games of the season, and he was a guy being there for a couple of days. I can tell you they're not sad that he's gone. He's a guy that wants the football, and that can, you know, really impact the way the quarterback plays. I think the quarterback's playing freer. I think he likes Joe Brady's system. I don't think he's going to turn the ball over as much. They're going to run the ball. The offensive line, which he knows, much improved. I think, you know, the right tackle really had a good season. Brown had a good season last year after not being a good player for a couple of years. They're going to run the ball, take the pressure off him, and Dalton Kincaid's going to catch 120 passes. And the defense, like he said, will be much better. I love this Buffalo Bills team.
And I really think that offensive line is a byproduct of great coaching. Aaron Kromer, a fabulous coach there. I had him in Chicago. He is a master technician, and he gets these guys ready to play. Even if they're subpar physically, he finds a way to field a unit that goes out there and does it tops in the league year in, year out.
And by the way, the Chiefs are going to be tough to beat in Arrowhead, and they're going to have the #1 seed because their division's not very good. and they're a good team where everybody else is going to beat up on each other. You know, look at the AFC East. I mean, the Bills, the Dolphins, and the Jets in that division. That's going to be a tough division to win, but I think Buffalo wins it. But I think the Jets go on the road, and Aaron Rodgers finds something and beats Patrick Mahomes, and then they lose at Buffalo.
More on the Dolphins and some of the other teams that you left out in the AFC in just a second, but want to go over to the NFC, and you talked about how Pete doesn't like chalk. You only want chalk in one division. The only favorite you have winning a division is the San Francisco 49ers. Other than that, you've got the Packers over the Lions in the north, Cowboys over the Eagles in the east, and the Bucs over the Falcons in the south.
Yeah, and when I look at the Falcons, I know everybody's on Kirk Cousins, and they made some additions to that defense and Judon, but he's coming off an injury-plagued season, and he's not a kid anymore. And Simmons, you know, they let him go in Denver because they didn't think he was worth the money. And so everybody sees name and not game, and I'm not sure their game is as good as their name anymore. So I'm picking Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay, that roster is, when you look at it, young, talented, fast, and they still have a nice mix of veterans. And you need that. And Baker Mayfield plays with a chip on his shoulder, so I think they win that division. But I think the Green Bay Packers are the team to beat in the NFC North.
There's no doubt, Pete, that it's an arms race in the NFC North. You talked about the AFC East just previously. They're going to beat up on each other, war of attrition style. That's what the NFC North's going to be. Which roster do I trust most in a siege-style warfare theater? It's going to be the Detroit Football Lions with Dan Campbell. I think that they're going to be able to run the football effectively. They've got studs on their offensive line, guys that are akin to players like Trent Williams. When you think about Frank Ragnow, you think about Penei Sewell, hopefully they can stay healthy. That's the strength of the team. I think that's why they're going to beat the Packers. That will win. The Lions will win the NFC North, but I think we could see 3 teams in the playoffs from the NFC North.
You know what it'll come down to? It'll be in a big game against Green Bay. It'll be 4th down late in the game, and all he needs is a field goal to tie the game, and Dan Campbell will decide to go for it, and it'll cost his team, much like he did last year in the game.
17 points in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
They had the lead on the San Francisco 49ers.
But he had a chance to kick a tying field goal, and he didn't do it.
watch.
Packers could have field goal issues too, though. They released their kicker who missed a bunch of kicks last season earlier in the week. Pete, take us through your bracket in the NFC. We know you have the Bills coming out of the AFC. Who is going to face them here with these matchups?
Well, I have. When you look at the Packers, I think the Packers will beat the Rams this time around at home again, and then I think the Cowboys, who I think will win the division, will beat the Eagles in the playoffs, and then the Bucs will beat the Lions at home because the Lions will be a wild card team. And the Bucs, by the way, were right in it with the Lions last year in the playoffs on the road. The Bucs will go to San Francisco. The 49ers will win that game. Green Bay will beat the Cowboys, and then Green Bay, who probably should have won at San Francisco last year, will go in and beat San Francisco as the 1 seed and go to the Super Bowl.
I disagree with you here on the NFC East pick that you made. You had the Dallas Cowboys finishing ahead of the Eagles. I think the Eagles are loaded. They're ready to reinvent themselves and show the world why they are still a threat in the class of the NFC East.
I worry about collapse. Teams that collapse, sometimes you have a problem with that. There's a disconnect, and I know their pass rush is an issue now. You know, got to get a bunch of young guys to go in there and do some things, and that's a concern. I think Green Bay doesn't get the credit it deserves, in large part because I don't think Matt LaFleur gets the credit he deserves, and Jordan Love is ready to go to the next level. The receivers, every single one of them, they didn't play together last year. They're all kids. They're going to be even that much better. And you talk about an offensive line, I think they've improved up front. I think they're bigger. They drafted the Morgan kid. Now, whether he starts at guard remains to be seen, but I think
he can play anywhere.
Right. They're good up front. They're going to be good on defense because Jeff Hafley's in there taking over as the defensive coordinator. I love the Packers.
I have one burning question about the Green Bay Packers. Will this young receiving core be able to continue to progress in their skill set? I know that they're young guys, and that was the talk of the town last year, and they're only going to get better and older. Are they going to continue to get better this year?
Yes.
Yeah, Pete, we ranked the top wide receiver trios in the league, and I think Pete had the Packers second or third.
I love that group. I love that group. When you see second and third year receivers, they usually take big jumps because they understand the concepts. And you know that. You know, when you're reading on the run, the coverages, you don't get that in college. And they start thinking less and reacting more, and I think that's why that offense is going to be explosive.
Pete, we were talking about Coach of the Year, and Matt LaFleur was somebody else that you were talking about in that conversation. So we've gone through the AFC and the NFC. We have the Bills and the Packers coming out. Now we're going to talk about fringe teams. Maybe this isn't their year. It could be. Maybe they're going to be better next season. But you do have the Dolphins in this group. Is it the fact that they're 1-6 against playoff teams that lets them fall in this category, in your opinion?
Bingo. And that translates to toughness for me. And they're fun to watch. They really are. They're enjoyable. They have track speed. They get up and down the field. They're creative. Mike McDaniel's a great play caller. But you know what? At some point, you got to win against the good teams, and you have to win on the road against good teams. And I don't know if they're physical enough to do it. It's his style. That's who he is. He's not one of those tough guy coaches that's going to. You remember, Fangio was there last year. He's a tough guy coach. They got rid of him because they didn't like the way he handled that group. That worries me with the Miami Dolphins. That's why I don't have the Dolphins in the postseason.
Man, the Dolphins are so much fun to watch offensively. If there's one team I could pick to play for today, it would be the Miami Dolphins. I know the ball is going to be out. I know that the chains are going to be moving offensively. But my only doubt as a free agent signing with the Dolphins would be, is this team going to be able to show up and beat teams that are tough challenges for us?
No Bears.
No, I think they're a year away. I like where they're going. I like where they're heading.
A year away from what?
From being
the Super Bowl?
A contender for the Super Bowl. Yes, I believe that. I think they're going to go. They're one of those teams that's going to push for the last wild card spot. I don't think they're going to get there, but I do think they're going to get there the next year and push for even more.
Okay, so Kyle's writing that down. He'll remember that.
Well, he's a homer,
later.
though. I mean, he's got two teams. If he played for all 32 teams, he'd sit here and be a homer for all 32.
I'd have the best football podcast in America.
Now he's just a homer for 2.
No Browns either over in the AFC. You don't think Deshaun Watson
I worry about the quarterback situation.
Yeah,
I mean, Deshaun Watson, is he going to be on the field? He's played 12 games in 2 years. That's a concern. It's a great job if you get it, $230 million for 12 games.
That unit is so elite up front in Cleveland. I think you and I could play quarterback and do decent in Stefanski's offense.
And they also don't have their running back either. I mean, I like Jerome Ford, but they don't have their running back.
Just follow me, big guy.
Huh?
Just
Where's your
me.
paper? I didn't see your pick.
Pete's predictions here, and he's got an interesting Super Bowl. It's Buffalo coming out of the AFC to face the Packers in the NFC. You can get major plus money on both of those teams matching up for the Super Bowl. How would you see that matchup going down, Pete?
I like the Packers. I think the Packers are winning it all. I really do. I like the makeup of this team. I think when you look at it, I mentioned the offense. Well, go to the defense. The cornerbacks and the secondary, you're adding Xavier McKinney to that back end of that defense is a big addition for them. The pass rush will be better because they're going to play the 4-man front. I thought they were a little miscast in what they used to do. This is going to be a much more aggressive unit. I love this team across the board.
I don't think the matchups bodes well for the Buffalo Bills. I think about the tight end position in Green Bay. Luke Musgrave's a guy that's going to have a big blow-up year this year in a good way. I don't think they can match up with him with their current roster on defense in Buffalo.
And Pete, we talked about them being young. What if it's not the Bills, if it is the Kansas City Chiefs again? Does that worry you a little bit, where you have Patrick Mahomes and all that experience and he knows how to come up in those big moments?
It really pains me not to pick Patrick Mahomes. I mean, come on, let's be real. It's hard to pick against that group, but three-peating is hard.
Yeah.
That's why it hasn't happened. I mean, it's tough to do. I will say this. Sorry, Bills fans. I know if you get there and you don't win it, it's going to be agonizing again. But I think Green Bay's a better team right now.
All right, Pete, Kyle, getting us ready for Week 1 of the NFL, and that wasn't chalk at all. I mean, I feel like you did a pretty good job. Packers winning the Super Bowl. That's Pete's prediction.
You got a little Brinson in you. A little bit of Brinson in you.
Don't ever say that. Please. Don't ever say that.
There's fire in Pete's eyes right now. A reminder, you can watch the NFL on CBS starting September 8th, and you can stream all the action all season long on Paramount Plus as well.